Welcome everyone to today's webinar brought to you by Dodge Data and Analytics, the leading provider of data, analytics, news, and intelligence serving the North American construction industry. Certainly we want to appreciate your patience for starting a few minutes late today, but we've had quite a few people log in right at the last minute. Today I'm your host, Bob Betcher. As a senior architectural consultant at Dodge Data and Analytics, I work directly with building product manufacturers to help them develop effective marketing strategies for reaching, informing, and influencing the construction industry. I'm an active member of the Construction Specification Institute, and I've been a member for 25 years, and I've been an architect licensed in Illinois for a long period of time as well. Previously, I was in architectural private practice for 19 years before joining Dodge, and my resume also includes working for a building products manufacturer in the engineering department, doing shop drawings, estimates, working with our dealer network and factory representatives. So I certainly have an understanding of the manufacturer's position in the construction industry. Today's topic is that we're going to be discussing specification rate. What is it and why it's important? First of all, I've got some good news and some bad news. Of course, everybody wants to start with good news, so let's do that. The good news is that the construction starts are up. The Dodge Momentum Index, which measures non-residential building projects in the planning stage, shows that right now commercial construction projects are at their highest level since September of 2015. Unfortunately, the bad news is that for building product manufacturers, this upturn in construction really hasn't made it any easier to get specified and to sell your products. Now, while marketing and advertising certainly play a strong role in your sales process, one of the most important things you can do to improve sales is to know and understand your specification rate. Specifically, you need to know how often your product is and is not specified compared to the competition. What exactly does it mean to get specified? It simply means that your company and its products are called out in the project manual, oftentimes referred to as the spec book, or on the drawings, or in the BIM model, and all of these documents that are issued for bidding. That's the key to understand this. I'm sure that all of you know this, but it certainly bears repeating whether your product is a new entry into the market or a well-known item to the project team. Being specified by design professionals is crucial to your success. In fact, product named in the specifications and construction documents have by far the highest probability of being purchased and installed by the contractor. Now, where can you find spec rate information? The easiest way to do this would be to subscribe to a commercial service specific to the construction industry that offers comprehensive plans and specifications in database format. Such a service would enable you to see all the projects where your projects are being specified and to receive immediate notification every time you are specified. Using such a service would allow you to discover a variety of projects and find out three very interesting facts. First of all, where you are specified, but you're not your competition. Second, where your competition is specified and you are not. And third, where you and your competition are both specified. Now, you'll be able to specify the kinds of information, the kind of analytics you'd like to have by looking at geography, project types, firms, other key attributes that you might indicate so that you can fully analyze your market opportunities. The better you understand the different ways a specification can be written, the more you can focus your efforts to have your products included in the specifications and included on the drawings, win the order, or be accepted as a substitution. Before we dive deeply into the specification methods used by the architects and the design team, a brief word about how firms develop their project specifications. Many firms often subscribe to one or more of the master specification services like Master Spec or BSD SpecLink. Those documents can be used to develop in-house or firm masters that are then edited for a specific project. These firm masters contain the technical experience, product, and manufacturer preferences of the individual firm. They're often vetted and edited by the senior technical people in a firm, usually in consultation with the design team as well, so that those documents represent the accumulated wisdom and experience of an individual practitioner. Alternately, some firms may choose to start with the sections provided by the master specification service and simply edit them directly for a given project. That can sometimes be a cumbersome and difficult effort. Finally, some firms may simply pull out the last project that is similar and edit those documents for the current one. Now, unfortunately, we all know what happens in these cases, and the outcomes can be less than ideal. That is as politely as I can possibly put it, and I'm sure that all of you have had experiences with this specification method. Unfortunately, it's common. It is certainly not recommended by any of the professional organizations, and it is just not recommended practice to follow. Let's take a look at some of the specification methods that architects use to prepare their specification manuals. There are 4 principal methods that are used. Each one of these has implications for the building product manufacturer. The first is descriptive, second is performance, the third is reference standard, and finally proprietary. And it's important to understand each one of these because the project manual may include one or more, if not all, of these specification methods. The first one we want to mention is descriptive. Descriptive specifications are simply just a written description of the work that is required. It does not name any specific manufacturer. A classic example might be concrete. A descriptive specification for a simple concrete project might state, we want to have 4 parts of coarse aggregate, 2 parts of fine aggregate, 1 part of cement, and a water to cement ratio of 1:2. Now, if this sounds like a recipe for a cake, you're exactly right. You can think of this essentially as a recipe kind of a method of specifying something. In this case, the concrete spec we just described, the design professional assumes the responsibility for the performance of that work. The contractor is free to choose products that conform to the requirements that have been described. And while this is a simple example, the descriptive method can be difficult and cumbersome to use when specifying complex products and systems. So it's not commonly used for commercial or complex projects. If you do see it used, it'd be very easy to understand that that's the method being used. You can look at these specifications, decide if your product meets the stated requirements. If so, the next step would be to contact the general contractor about your product and ask if it can be included in the project and if your company can be included as a bidder. The performance method is the next one we would like to talk about a little bit. This method spells out the performance characteristics expected of the finished work. Simply put, it defines results, but it does not define the means to achieve them. Performance specs are often used when statutes or regulations prohibit naming manufacturers or the design team is looking for an innovative solution. In a simple performance specification, we'll return to our concrete example, it might be specified something like this: 3,000 psi compressive strength concrete with a minimum of 2,000 psi compressive strength measured at 7 days after placement. This spec simply tells the contractor what the required performance is and the minimum test value at a specific point in time after installation. It gives the contractor freedom to choose the best way to achieve the desired result. A more complex example might be a curtain wall assembly. The design team may state that the curtain wall sections must span at least 2 stories, carry certain positive and negative pressures at different heights above grade, define deflection limits at various wind loadings and other pressures, fire resistance requirements, air and water infiltration limits, and other characteristics that the design team deems to be important. But these specifications would not mention the materials or the manufacturer. Now, this method gives the manufacturer and the contractor the design freedom to innovate a system to meet the stated requirements. When you see this method used and your company offers a product meeting the requirements or is capable of engineering and fabricating a custom system to meet the specs, contact the general contractor, refer to the specification section in question, and then ask to be included as a potential bidder. Now let's talk a little bit about the reference standard method. With this method, the designer uses recognized industry standards such as ASTM, UL, DIN, Warnock-Hersey, other accepted industry standards in the construction field, but it's not going to be mentioning any proprietary names. Many building products and components that are essentially considered commodities, like electrical conduit and wiring, concrete reinforcing steel, or water piping, are often specified by reference standard without naming a specific manufacturer. Here, the contractor is free to use products that meet the reference standards. If you see this method used and your products meet the standards that are indicated in the documents, your next step would be to contact the general contractor or the subcontractor about your products, reference the applicable spec sections, and then ask to be included as a potential supplier. Next, let's consider the proprietary method. Here, the finished work result is defined using manufacturer name, trade name, model numbers, and additional information that is unique to a selected product. For example, a hypothetical example, a specification for aluminum-clad wood casement windows would name the ABC Window Company, and they would specify the contemporary series aluminum-clad wood casement window, model 3660. The specifications would include the test standards, performance values, finishes, operating hardware, and glazing needed for that window. Because the standard of care for design professionals requires that at least 3 acceptable manufacturers are listed, additional companies would be included that would qualify that, in the opinion of the design professional, are in fact equivalent and would meet the needs of the project. Now we want to take a little sidebar here and talk a little bit about open or closed specifications. Specifications can be closed, they can be open. And these are fairly simple terms to understand, but let's go in and kind of explain them to clarify maybe some of the misconceptions that are floating around. When you're evaluating a set of construction specs, you need to pay very close attention to see if the document is marked open or closed. You can check Division 1 of the specifications to find out if a specification is open or closed. Open specifications allow manufacturers, other than the ones that are listed, to bid and propose their products as substitutions. These situations are an excellent opportunity for companies who are not listed in the specs to gain entry to the bidders list and therefore compete for work. If the specifications are open, Division 1 would spell out the substitution procedures. You can look in Section 01-2500, Substitution Procedures, to find out what the requirements are for submitting your products. If you check a set of specs in Division 1 and you do not see the Substitution Procedures section listed, probably a very good indicator that this project is a closed project. Specs are not open. One important note of caution, that section, the Substitution Procedures section, will spell out procedures that have to be followed so that you can submit your information in the proper form to the architects and engineers for consideration. Not following those procedures will typically exclude you automatically from consideration. Now, if a specification is closed, the spec simply requires the contractor to bid using the manufacturers and products described in the specs, and other choices are just not going to be considered. It means bid what we asked you to bid, point blank. It's very, very straightforward. Now, there's some special cases that involve the proprietary method of specification that are actually very important to kind of amplify here today. Let's look at the first case, and that is a sole source proprietary specification. This method only lists one product and manufacturer. It is used in cases when only one product will meet the project's needs. That is a very rare case and is usually just simply not true. In almost every case, there's more than one product that will achieve the desired result. Second of all, the owner wants to maintain consistency with existing equipment or materials. Take, for example, lock sets. A university may have 5 dormitories that have a specific brand and type of lock set installed, and for the new dormitory that you're working on, my guess is very, very good that they're going to be requiring the architect to specify the same lock sets so that there's continuity between the existing campus and the new work that's going to be designed and built. And finally, the owner may simply prefer a specific manufacturer or product. It's their money, it's their project, and it's their preferences. So they can simply specify exactly what they would like you to do. And you go ahead and you comply with that, and it becomes a sole source proprietary spec. Now, the second case here that we want to talk about that's kind of a special case is what's commonly referred to as the basis of design specification. In this variation of a proprietary spec, details and design aesthetics of the project are defined by the manufacturer's product, listed in first position and indicated as such as the basis of design. Acceptable alternatives are also listed. For example, an architect may select a specific manufacturer and model of aluminum-clad wood casement windows and use this product-specific information to prepare the specifications and detail the product into the drawings. With a properly prepared basis of design specification, all of the listed companies in that document have been researched, product equivalencies have been evaluated, and performance characteristics have been set so that all the companies listed in the spec can bid acceptable products. It would be unacceptable to write the specification with restrictive requirements or characteristics unique to the company listed as the basis of design and therefore effectively rule out the other listed companies. As I mentioned earlier, as long as the specification is marked open, there is an opportunity to bid the project. Make sure that you always review Division 1 of the project manual and follow the substitution procedures to be included. Always, always, always follow the rules. Now, what happens if you're not getting specified? It's kind of a conundrum. You've done your homework, you're in the market, you're making good products, you have good representatives, but you're not getting the specification results that you'd like. Now, some of you may find yourself struggling with this issue. And some of the reasons that you can consider would be a lack of awareness of your company or products. Simply stated, they just don't know you. A lack of confidence by the design professional in your products. You might be missing from a firm's internal specification system, the in-house master that we mentioned earlier. The individual or firm has had a bad experience with a manufacturer's products or with that company. So let's talk a little bit about lack of awareness. Firms or individuals may simply lack awareness. This lack of awareness can be overcome with advertising, one-on-one sales calls. You can participate in major industry trade events like trade shows or professional society meetings on a monthly basis so that your name and your products become much more well aware to the design community. Your goal in these situations should be to identify the key people involved in making decisions and educate them about your products and services, always in the context of meeting the needs of their projects. Always ask what your company has to do to be included in a firm's master specification. Don't miss that opportunity. What happens when there's a lack of confidence? You have to remember that there is a lot riding on a firm's ability to make proper choices. We, as a design team, assume a great deal of liability for our opinions and for the design choices that we make. It could be that the firm does not have any experience with your product, and they might not be confident about recommending it as a result. In this case, your goal should be to identify and work with the decision makers at the design firm and discover their needs. At this point, you can help them see the benefits of using your products to meet their project goals. Over time, your company will gain their trust and confidence to use your products whenever it is appropriate. You should then start to see an increase in your specification rate. You might be missing from someone's internal spec system. Now, large firms have the resources to develop and maintain good in-house master specification systems. They tend to update those things on a fairly frequent basis. Some of the smaller and mid-tier firms probably do not have those resources, and if they do, they update their specifications on a less frequent basis. If you find that you're missing from a firm's in-house master spec, you need to employ one-on-one sales calls with key decision makers to overcome this. On these calls, you want to find out how a company and their products are evaluated, particularly if your main competitor seems to be always specified and you seem never to appear. Be ready to present a comparative analysis that objectively demonstrates how your products meet the requirements of the firm's master specification and how they match the competition and how they might meet the individual project that's under discussion. During this process, if you find your company was removed from a master spec, in other words, you were in before and you're not now, find out why and what your firm has to do to be included again. The last reason we want to talk about here is a bad experience. A bad experience could be classified as poor performance of the product, poor follow-up by the manufacturer's representative in dealing with ongoing on-site issues, owner complaints about the product or the system, outright failure to perform as promised, and other issues that are too numerous to mention, actually. Some of these cases fall under the heading of a bad experience, and we certainly don't want to have any of those be the situation that we're involved in. Unfortunately, this may take many years to overcome. Design professionals do not easily forgive and forget. If their firm or if they as an individual have had problems with your company or products. Going from a thumbs down to a thumbs up situation usually is not a matter of sales or marketing persuasion, but it certainly will likely involve waiting for new personnel to assume decision-making roles. It's always important to stay top of mind, and this is part of the awareness issue. When you do reach out to a design professional, your goal is always to turn them into loyal specifiers, ones that will continue to use your products as their basis of design for future projects. Always remember that loyal specifiers need to be kept up to date about new trends and developments in your industry. They need to be kept up to date about building code developments, test standards, installation methods, new manufacturing methods, new materials, all of the things that are critical to selecting and specifying your products. If you want to maintain your position as a trusted supplier, you need to bring these issues to their attention on a regular basis. Make those sales calls on a regular basis. Don't ignore the good specifiers that you're working with. And make sure that on those sales calls, you're not selling, you're educating.